So we removed the number 14 aft cap frame that we had installed that wasn't fitting, and we are going to go through the final adjustments to the frame, which we're going to leave oversized until we get a few frames in, and then we'll come and taper it down, taking off all the excess. Adjusting the inside One of the problems we have with the starter frame when we're going to put the 3 nails in them is that I don't have the space between the drill and the vise to hold the piece in place. So I have this separate vise and I'm going to hand drill it, creating a starter hole. I have a slight variation on the height of the join, probably about 4 inches. I'm not going to worry about it too much because it's probably related to, all my making my fat frame. So we're only going to really check on it when we put the forward square frame in. The last thing we need to check is the height of the deadwood. So we've taken the measurements off the plan and doing the same check here. You can see that we're spot on. We've put the spacers on at the top here. I've cut a piece of 15-inch stock. This particular size is 1 foot in diameter. The thickness of it may vary as the frames go forward. So I actually have a piece of 15-inch stock which I'll cut and hopefully get different thicknesses that will mark the spacers. So this is the correction frame, 14 complete, 14 aft, and now we're going to put 14 forward in. Having gone through that interesting learning experience, hopefully we're going to have a much easier time with number 14 forward square frame. We've taken the measurement off the plan and it's 1.2 inches, and then make sure it's pushed right down. We put a little weight on this so it doesn't move, and we line up the top marks. We have the 2 spacers already done, so we just put them in temporarily. And I would just push this down. So that's going to work out fine as we start to taper the foot on both of the frames. These struggles keep getting easier or better, or maybe it's the skill level is starting to improve. Certainly the consultations with Greg have helped me gain confidence in the build. But I'm very happy to say that the first two square frames are in, number 14, and it can only get better from here. We start the journey now for frame 13. In fact, I printed out 13 through 11 because according to the book, that's when we should start to taper these frames back to the semi-finish. I made up this little jig which has various types of chocks, and very useful when you are setting up to cut the first footlock and second footlock off to set the size of the chocks. Just a quick explanation of things that I learned. One is when you're making the scarf joint, there's a trim line, an outer trim line on the frame, and you want to make sure that the join is well inside of that trim line. Otherwise you're going to have a weak join, because when you trim it down, the center of that trim line will tend to go towards the outside and be very close to where you're going to be sanding off. And the second thing is it has two heights. This is for the forward, the top height is for the forward, and the lower height is for the aft topped timber. I think that's ready. Or we're using the same sizes, 9-inch, 9.5, and 10. Aft cant frame. Forward cant frame. Before we fit the aft number 13, we thought we'd lay out the spacer blocks on 13 so that you get a good idea of what is involved. They are 7 inches from the top of the lines, the joint lines, and 9 inches below. And the depth of the spacer block is 7 inches. The book tells you that the actual thickness may vary depending on the slope. So we're going to put the first one in, there's 13 aft, and then position these afterwards. The only block that's different is the space between the top block and the bottom block is 2 foot 3 inches. We thought we'd just do this double check to make sure that we were square on the model. And as you can see, again, we're spot on. We've made up some stock which is 7-inch wide, and we've checked the spacing, and so now we're going to put them on the inside of 13 aft, and then we will put 13.4 on top of that one. We're putting the cement on very light. Just checking the height, and they're both exactly the same. There was some feeling that perhaps I should have stuck 13 forward and then put the filler blocks, the spacer blocks. I see no reason to do this. It's gone in pretty fine and there's no real adjustment. So that brings us to the end of this very satisfying section of the build.